Perspectives with Neilo.
The reason I do this podcast is because mainstream media are mostly concerned with the big issues of the day, but there are still many important topics that don't often get a look in. Because these topics don't get much publicity, there's little public discussion or analysis of them, and politicians may not feel compelled to share related information because the topic isn't visible, essentially. But that doesn't mean that there isn't anything going on in the background that may be of public interest. The types of topics I'm talking about are support for values like freedom and democracy, human rights, and so on. And often, when it comes to these issues, there may be a trade-off or conflict of interest involved, so it's important for people to be aware of what's going on so that democratic leaders can be held accountable and that there's reasonable transparency. To give an example, if you look at the Russian invasion of Ukraine, it's well covered by mainstream media, the public are fully aware of what's going on, and in Western European countries, for example, the majority voice their support for Ukraine, and so governments are very comfortable speaking out in support of Ukraine and criticising Russia. But contrast that with a similar situation, like China's claim on Taiwan. Here you have a superpower under the rule of the Chinese Communist Party, an authoritarian regime, who proudly proclaim their support and deep friendship with Russia, and they are threatening to annex Taiwan by force if necessary. Taiwan is a democratic country, and most people who believe in democracy will agree that the 23 million people of Taiwan have a right to self-determination, just like any other democratic people. But you don't hear much about the daily aggression carried out by China against Taiwan in mainstream media, or you don't often hear Western governments defend Taiwan, nor do many governments speak out about China's support for Russia. You might think, given the Russian invasion of Ukraine, that Western democracies would be sensitive to the China threat against Taiwan and would speak out as a deterrent. But because it's a little further away and the history may not be as well understood, and more so because many Western governments trade with China, they are reluctant to criticize. So they don't speak out about it, mainstream media doesn't often cover it, and the public are not as aware about what's going on. And because the public are not aware, they don't raise the issue with politicians, and so nothing changes. China's threats against Taiwan are threats against democracy, against people's freedoms, the same type of freedom we enjoy. These are important issues we should all be aware of, and this is why I cover topics about Taiwan on the podcast, to raise awareness and share the different perspectives.
Listen to Perspectives with Neilo, wherever you get your podcasts or at pwneilo.com.